Welcome to Mind and Movement, getting smart about how you move. I'm Hazel. Thanks for joining me for Coffee and Move 46. Today we're going to do a little bit of shoulder stuff, but I specifically wanted to show you how to move your shoulder and not your spine, which is what a lot of us do when we get into certain positions because we don't have mobility somewhere, we end up moving elsewhere. And to stop us from moving elsewhere, we're going to use bolsters, which we do all the time. So have a sip of your wonderful coffee and let's get into it. So if I was just to lie on the ground to do a movement called the windmill, I would start by lying on my back, putting this leg out straight. This is the leg closest to the back wall here. I'm going to roll and I'm bringing my whole body with me. It's not a spinal twist, it's a roll. So this knee is now down on the ground. Now you can see here that my head is going this way, which is fine. You know, I'm getting a little bit of a stretch through my neck. But what happens here, if you put your hand here and this up in the air, watch this. When I bring my head back up into a neutral position, can you see how my rib cage is coming down? And you'll also see, so my rib cage comes down. So if I was in this position, what is lifting up if I exaggerated a little bit there, what is lifting up is actually movement in my spine, right? So by having my neck down here, because I don't have the mobility between my neck and my shoulder and my rib cage here, I am pulling up my rib cage a little bit. But if I bring my head up here, my rib cage comes down. So I want to move my shoulder joint, right? I'm going to do a movement here. But if I lift up here, you can see that the movement, like I'm not moving my shoulder at all there. All that is spinal motion, right? So if I grab a bolster and put it under my head, then I'm bringing my rib cage down so I can now use my shoulder, which is what we want to do here, right? This is part of an exercise called the windmill. So all I'm doing here now is instead of moving my spine and lifting up my rib cage like that, I'm actually getting the movement happening at the shoulder joint. Yay! And when we move at the shoulder joint, we stop throwing excessive loads through our lumbar spine in multiple directions, not just in this way, but moving my arm up the front. And when we stop thrusting our ribs and whatnot, we stop compressing our spine, our lumbar spine especially. So this is why we put a bolster under the head when we're doing things, and bolsters up under the upper rib cage when we're lying on our back, so that our rib cage can be and our spine can be in a neutral position. So let's do the windmill. So for a start with, now you've got those ribs down because you've got something under your head. Now you can bring this arm up and over the top. Now I want you to do that a couple of times, and then I want you to see if you're doing, what's your scapula doing? So now grab your hand and put it on your scapula around the back there, and now see how much movement you can get when you don't bring your scapula up. So it's actually going to be a bit of a pain to have your hand there because it will stop you moving, but it stops you moving that scapula up, which means we're getting movement at the glenohumeral joint, the joint between the scapula and the humerus, the shoulder blade and the upper arm bone, instead of just twisting my scapula or lifting my scapula on my back. So the movement's happening in a joint, the glenohumeral joint, where perhaps you don't get much movement. And that's where we need to move more, in these places where we have a habit of slopping our scapula around on our backs, so our GH joint doesn't move much, and then we all get frozen shoulders and sore shoulders and all those things because we're not moving. Frozen shoulder, not moving shoulder, right? Because we haven't been moving it. Okay, so that's just coming up and over the top there. Now you can come up. We did this one yesterday. I think externally rotate and come back. So now I'm rotating, I'm twisting a little bit through my torso, but I'm not thrusting my ribs. I'm using those upper 2 kind of inches of my abs to stabilize my rib cage to my pelvis, so I'm not getting any rib thrust, so my rib cage is not posteriorly tilting as I do this relative to my pelvis. That is. And if you can get that thumb on the ground, then you can kind of start out here, thumb on the ground, and then bring it right up over your head, and then up here. And if you don't have that range, that's fine. Wherever you are, just play. But keep doing this exercise. Because I didn't used to be able to do it either. Now I can. Hooray. Okay, so that's my right shoulder. Now let's do the left shoulder. So let's set that all up again. So I'm going to start on my back. Then this leg closest to the camera is going to go out straight, and then I'm doing a complete body roll so that this knee is on the ground and this knee stays on the ground. Then no bolster under my head. Look what's happening to my rib cage. It's getting pulled up because when I lift my head up, you can see how my rib cage goes back down. I could do the exercise from here, but now I'm throwing a whole lot of tension into my neck and tension in places that I don't need it. So I'm going to use a bolster to do this movement here. And like over time, you want to make the bolster smaller and smaller as you get more movement here, right? As I start to be able to move my shoulder more, when I'm in this position, I've got more range, so the tension is not going to be pulling up my rib cage. So the idea with bolsters is that you slowly stop using them. You gradually decrease the height of them as you need them less and less. Right, so here you can see now, because I have my head bolstered, when I'm doing this, my rib cage is not moving much, moving up a little bit. So I'm just taking my thumb straight up over my head to see if I can touch the ground above my head, again without my rib cage coming up. And so another key is to make sure that your rib cage on this floor side is touching the ground. Yep. So we'll just practice that arm up over the head. And then can you reach it really long and straight and still get that thumb to touch the ground? And then you can externally rotate it a little bit and bring it up over the head. That means your palm is going to be touching the ground here. But just this movement here is a nice movement, and we're trying to get pure shoulder joint movement instead of rib cage and shoulder joint movement. We want to get that movement here. Oh yeah. Okay, and now we're going to reach up, externally rotate. We're going to come back. I'm going to come forward a bit because I'm hitting the wall. So I'm externally rotating, taking my thumb back. Now I am rolling or twisting rather back a little bit. That bolster out of the way. And yeah, again here, can you get that thumb on the ground and bring it all the way up around here? And you'll find a spot, like I get a spot there where I'm really having to work. So there, I'm going to hang out there because that's where I have a line of pull. And an alternate branch of my deep back line. I can feel that in my levator scapulae coming into my supraspinatus, if that makes any sense to you. That's where I'm feeling that, as well as in my tricep. So yeah, it's really key to have a look at how you're moving. So grab a mirror, see if when you are doing this, like if you're not bolstering, you thrust in your rib cage right up, then we're not getting as much movement. See, like I'm not going to move my shoulder joint at all. Let's put it straight up, and then I bring that down. That movement is all happening in my spine. None of it is happening in my shoulder joint. How do you expect to get more movement at the shoulder joint if you don't move the shoulder joint? It's a lot of people do in kind of traditional exercise. When they don't understand which parts of them are doing what, they'll just end up moving in the same repetitive fashion. Oh yeah. So we're externally rotating that arm because we're always in internal rotation. And internal rotation brings those shoulders up around the neck. So we want to get into that externally rotated position and rolling back. Take some nice deep breaths here. And we've just done one beautiful movement. That movement has been the windmill exercise. We've got some movement specifically into our shoulder joint. Our shoulder joint is where our scapula joins onto our humerus, our glenoid cavity. So we have moved there, which means we have used the rotator cuff muscles, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, teres minor, all of those beautiful muscles around the scapula that hold onto the end of the top of the humerus and aim the head of the humerus, much like the muscles in your eye aim your eyeball. So very cool muscles. Thank you very much, rotator cuff muscles. We would not be able to do these wonderful things without you. On that note, I hope you have a really wonderful day. It's Thursday, maybe. I think it's Thursday. It's Thursday here in Christchurch, New Zealand. Yeah, it's Thursday. Because it was Abby's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Abby. She's 6 years old, my niece. She got a puppy. How exciting. Cool. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.